Hello, I'm Kerry Bloedorn. Welcome back for the next part of our Hodag Heritage series. Today we'll be talking about the discovery of the Hodag. Come on.
Back in the 1880s, northern Wisconsin was still in a rather natural state, with pine forests stretching across the northern highland region. As civilization expanded and the axe rang through the woods from south and north, eventually they made their way along the banks of the mighty Wisconsin River to a place then known as Pelican Rapids, later to be named Rhinelander.
This place was surrounded by a grove of virgin pine trees said to be 9 miles by 40 miles wide, with an average sized tree of 55 inches in diameter, some specimens wider than 6 feet across and 100 feet tall. In the early days of Wisconsin history, people weren't entirely sure what types of animals could be lurking among the tall pines of the Northwoods. As small logging communities sprang up and grew, it may have been easy to make believe what creatures could be hiding deep in the swamps and along the riverbanks of the area.
Enter the renowned timber cruiser, surveyor, mapmaker, and woodsman Eugene Simeon Shepherd. Born at Fort Howard, now known as Green Bay, in 1854, he grew up in the New London, Wisconsin area until his youthful muscles brought him to the fledgling boomtown of Rhinelander. He had cruised the area some years before it became a city and was now on hand to watch the town spring up from the dirt, practically overnight.
With the railroad came people, and with people, a city. There is much to be said about the life and times of Gene Shepherd, which was aptly described in Kurt Kortenhoff's premier book on the topic, Long Live the Hodag. Gene was a regular Gene of all trades, and aside from being a notable character and well thought of woodsman, he was also quite the prankster.
As the trees were quickly being cut down and turned to lumber and sawdust at the buzz of the saw blades in Rhinelander, Gene came up with a brilliant plan to put Rhinelander on the map. Having spent much time traversing the forests, in logging camps, and sitting around the campfire with the Anishinaabe guides, whose language he was fluent, he had undoubtedly heard the stories of the ghastly dead ox and the water panther spirit Mishapishu, and so, like many yarn spinners of the time, adapted them to fit a most compelling narrative. The legends of the Hodag that Gene told were never quite the same telling to telling. Descriptors changed all the time, but he did stick to a few details. In 1893, he was walking through the woods near Lake Creek north of Rhinelander, in section 37 on the plat map, when a malevolent odor struck his nose and stopped him in his tracks. A magnificent creature jumped onto a log to confront him, the likeness of which he had never seen before. With the head of a frog and the face of an elephant, 2 oxen-like horns on its head, large tusk-like fangs in its mouth, covered in black hair, lizard-like in nature with a long tail lined with spikes down its back and a spear at the end of its tail. A beast approximately 7 feet long, 30 inches tall, and 200 pounds was the sight that stood before him, snarling and vicious, ready to rip him limb from limb. Gene was able to capture a photo of this pine beast with the primitive photography equipment he just happened to have on hand that day.
Gene had surmised that over the course of many years in the forest, that this elusive creature lived deep in the swamps of the high-timbered forest, spending its days soaking in the sun along the wetland pools and feeding on mud turtles, fish, and the occasional deer that ventured too close to its lair.
It wasn't till a few years later in 1896 when Gene was able to capture a live specimen. he promptly put the beast on display at Oneida County's first fair, scaring man, woman, and child for 10 cents a viewing. They all left the grounds believing in the Northwoods' fiercest creature, the Hodag.